Quantum Collapse, The Last Days of Humanity. Chapter 1. The collapse. The sky darkened as the first signs of the impending disaster made themselves known. It started with small tremors, then grew into a massive earthquake that shook the foundations of the city. Buildings were reduced to rubble within seconds, and the streets were filled with people running for their lives. All around me, chaos reigned. People were screaming, trying to get out of the way of falling debris, struggling to traverse the crumbled streets. I was one of them, fighting for survival against the relentless force of nature. The ground continued to shake, the tremors growing stronger with each passing moment. It was as if the very earth was tearing itself apart. The tall, towering buildings of the city swayed back and forth, and I knew that they wouldn't stand for much longer. A flash of light illuminated the sky, and a rumble echoed through the air. The sound was deafening, and I covered my ears in an attempt to block it out. When I looked up, I saw that the sky was now filled with bright lights, and the sound was that of the panicked screams of those around me. As I stumbled forward, I saw something that I couldn't believe. Above me, the sky had opened up, revealing a gaping hole in space. It was unlike anything I had ever seen before. In that moment, I knew that this was not a natural disaster. This was something much worse. The hole continued to grow, swallowing up everything in its path. The buildings, the trees, the very ground itself, all were pulled into the abyss. I tried to run, but it was too late. The gaping maw of the void was coming straight for me. I was sucked in, pulled into the inky blackness of the hole. As I tumbled through space, I could feel the cold, suffocating grip of fear around me. I knew that I was going to die. But then, just as suddenly as it had started, it was over. I landed hard on a cold, metallic floor. I looked around, dazed and disoriented, to find myself in a strange, alien world. It was then that I realized that my life would never be the same again. Chapter 2. The specialists. I was still disoriented from the events of the collapse when a group of people in white lab coats appeared before me. They were holding strange, alien-looking devices, and their eyes seemed to shine with a strange gleam. Before I could even say anything, one of them stepped forward and introduced herself. "Hello," she said. "My name is Dr. Maria Sanchez. We are specialists in interdimensional travel, and we have been waiting for you." For a moment, I was too stunned to respond. How did they know who I was? What was going on? Dr. Sanchez seemed to sense my confusion and placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Do not fear," she said. "We have been working tirelessly to prepare for this moment." Before I could ask what she meant, the others began to converge around me. They examined me from head to toe, running tests and taking readings. I felt like a lab rat, but I couldn't deny that their advanced medical equipment was something to marvel at. It wasn't until hours later that I was finally able to speak with Dr. Sanchez again. She sat me down in a small, sterile room and began to explain everything. "You see," she said, "there are many dimensions, many realities. It is our job to study and explore them, to understand the interconnectedness of everything in the universe. And you, my friend, have just stumbled into one of the most important realities of them all." I was skeptical, but Dr. Sanchez went on to explain how the collapse was not a natural disaster, but a result of a dimensional rift that had been growing for years. Her team had been studying it for some time and had been waiting for someone to venture through it. "Your arrival here is no coincidence," she said. "We believe that you are the key to preventing a catastrophic event that could unravel the very fabric of reality." I listened in disbelief as she explained that there were dark forces at work, beings from beyond our reality who sought to use the rift to their own advantage. As the only human to have passed through the rift, I was uniquely equipped to disrupt their plans. Dr. Sanchez and her team were putting together a mission to infiltrate a dimensional gate and stop the beings from unleashing chaos on our world. And they needed me to go with them. At first, I was hesitant. I had never been a hero, never wanted to be one. But the gravity of the situation was too much to ignore. If I didn't help, who would? And so, I joined the specialists, training to use their advanced technology and fight against the unknown horrors that lurked beyond the veil of our reality. It was a daunting task, but I knew that it was a fight I had to be a part of. Chapter 3. The child. Our mission took us to a remote corner of the dimension, where we had detected signs of a gateway that led to the other side. We descended upon an abandoned facility, surrounded by an eerie fog that obscured the landscape. We made our way through the dilapidated buildings, always on high alert for any signs of danger. As we moved deeper into the facility, we heard a faint sound coming from the distance. It sounded like a child crying. We followed the sound, turning a corner to find a small, frightened child huddled in a corner. She couldn't have been more than 3 years old, her face streaked with tears. Dr. Sanchez approached her slowly, trying to calm her down. But as she got closer, she suddenly jerked back, as if something had hit her. "What the?" she said, before collapsing to the ground. The rest of us rushed to her side, but it was too late. She was gone, her body turning to ash in a matter of seconds. We were all stunned and terrified. None of us had seen anything like it before. And then the child began to speak, in a voice ancient and filled with rage. "You have no business here," it said. "This place belongs to us." The child revealed itself to be an agent of the beings we were fighting against. It had been sent to lure us into a trap, and it had succeeded. We were surrounded by a legion of twisted creatures, their forms indescribable and their eyes glowing with malevolence. We fought bravely, but it quickly became clear that we were outnumbered. Just as it seemed that all hope was lost, a figure appeared from the darkness. It was a being unlike any I had ever seen before. It shimmered with a glowing energy, and its eyes blazed a fiery yellow. As the creatures closed in, the being sprang into action, its movements swift and precise. With each blow it landed, the creatures screamed and disintegrated into ash. We were able to regroup and fight back, knowing that we had a powerful ally at our side. We battled for what seemed like hours, the tide of the fight ebbing to and fro. At one point, I found myself isolated against a group of 3 of the creatures. They closed in on me, their eyes blazing with a fierce hunger. But then the being appeared once more, striking out at them with deadly force. Together, we were able to finish off the last of the creatures and secure the gateway. As we emerged from the facility, the being spoke to us, its voice echoing in our minds. "You are not alone," it said. "We are watching, and we will help you in your fight." We all knew then that this was far from the end of our journey. But with a powerful ally by our side, we felt that we could take on anything that the dimension had to throw at us. Chapter 4. The betrayal. We had been on the front line of the dimensional war for months, fighting against the creatures that sought to bring devastation and ruin to our world. Our team of specialists had grown stronger, more skilled, more cohesive. But then something happened that shattered our unity. One of our own had gone rogue. Dr. Jackson, a scientist on our team, had grown increasingly erratic and unpredictable. It started with small things, missed deadlines, strange behavior. But it quickly escalated. One day, Dr. Sanchez called us all into a meeting to announce that she had discovered that Dr. Jackson had been working on a secret project, one that he had kept hidden from the rest of us. We were shocked and outraged. How could he betray us like this? What had he been working on? Dr. Sanchez didn't have all the answers, but she did have one thing: a location. She told us that we needed to infiltrate a facility deep in the heart of the dimension, where Dr. Jackson was holed up. We knew it would be dangerous, but we were determined. We set out for the facility, our eyes trained on the horizon as we made our way through the shifting landscape of the dimension. When we arrived, we found ourselves facing heavy resistance. Dr. Jackson had some of the most advanced technology we had ever seen, and he was putting it to use in the most brutal way possible. We fought our way through, taking out his minions and finally confronting him in a large chamber deep in the heart of the facility. Dr. Jackson revealed his true intentions to us. He had grown disillusioned with our mission, believing that the creatures we had been fighting against had something to offer him. He had been working to create a device that would allow him to open a gateway to another reality, one where he believed he could gain untold power and riches. We were horrified and tried to reason with him. But it was too late. He had already activated the device. We watched in horror as the gateway opened up, and a horde of twisted creatures poured out. Dr. Jackson cackled with glee, his face twisted in a maniacal expression. We fought for our lives with everything we had, but it was a losing battle. The creatures were too strong, too numerous. Just when we thought our fate was sealed, the being that had appeared to us earlier reappeared, glowing with a fierce power. With a wave of its hand, it obliterated the creatures and sealed the gateway shut. And then it turned to Dr. Jackson. "You have become what you once sought to destroy," it said. "Your selfishness has led to the suffering of countless beings." And then, in a burst of energy, it consumed him. We were all in shock, unsure of what to do or how to feel. We had lost one of our own, but we had also been saved by a powerful ally. As we made our way back to our home world, I couldn't help but wonder, what other secrets were hiding within our team? Would there be more betrayals to come? Chapter 5. The final showdown. The revelation that one of our own had betrayed us had left our team fractured and distrustful. We had always been close, but the knowledge that someone among us had been willing to put our mission at risk for their own gain was a blow that we struggled to recover from. But if we were going to stop the beings that threatened to destroy our world, we had to put aside our differences and work together. We knew that our next mission was going to be the most dangerous yet, infiltrating the heart of the creature's stronghold and bringing an end to their plans once and for all. We gathered all of our resources, our most advanced technology, and our courage, and set out on our mission. The stronghold was guarded by an army of creatures, all twisted and grotesque, all determined to stop us. We fought our way through them, taking out their defenses and making our way deeper into the compound. The air was thick with the stench of rot, and the walls dripped with the blood of those who had tried to invade before us. But we pressed forward, driven by our desperation to save our world. As we moved deeper into the stronghold, the creatures grew stronger, their bodies more grotesque and their eyes aglow with a malevolent beat. They fought with a ferocity that shocked even us, and we were forced to draw on every last ounce of our strength to survive. At last, we found ourselves standing before the ruler of the creatures. It was a being of unimaginable power and scale, its form shifting and changing with every moment. It had detected our presence and was ready for us, its eyes blazing with unbridled fury. We engaged in a fierce battle, trading blows and trying to outmaneuver each other. But it quickly became clear that this thing was far more powerful than any of us had ever imagined. Just when it seemed as though all was lost, the being that had helped us in the past appeared once more. It glowed with a radiant light, and its voice echoed inside our minds. "I have come to aid you in your final battle," it said. "With your help, we can destroy this creature once and for all." Together, we unleashed our most powerful attacks, pushing the creature back with all of our might. The battle raged on for what seemed like hours, until at last, the being trapped the creature in a vortex of energy. With a final scream, the creature shattered into pieces, its power dissipating into the air. We all stood there, panting and exhausted, but triumphant. We had saved our world from destruction. As we made our way back home, I felt a sense of pride and purpose that I had never felt before. We had faced down the ultimate evil and emerged victorious. And yet, as I looked around at my teammates, I knew that we would never forget the sacrifices we had made along the way. We would carry the memories of our fallen comrades with us always, a reminder of the power and the cost of the fight for a better world. Chapter 6. The aftermath. The war was over, but the aftermath was just beginning. Our world had been saved, but it was not the same as it had been before. We had lost so much along the way: friends, colleagues, entire cities. The images of destruction and devastation were seared into our minds, a constant reminder of the cost of our fight. But we also had each other. Through the trials and tribulations of the war, we had grown closer, stronger, more united. We had formed bonds that would last a lifetime, forged in the fires of battle. And so we turned our attention to the task of rebuilding. It was a daunting challenge, but we were determined to see it through. We worked tirelessly to repair the damage that had been done, rebuilding cities, homes, and lives. It was slow going, but we were making progress. But the scars of the war were not just physical, they were emotional as well. Many of us struggled with the trauma of what we had witnessed and experienced. Dr. Sanchez, who had always been our rock, seemed to be struggling the most. She withdrew into herself, spending long hours in her lab and avoiding contact with the rest of us. I made it my mission to reach out to her, to try and get her to talk. It wasn't easy, but eventually, she opened up to me. She expressed her pain and her guilt over the losses we had suffered, and her fear that it could all happen again. It was a difficult conversation, but it was also cathartic. It was a reminder that we were all on this journey together, and that we needed to be there for each other. As time passed, we began to see signs of hope. Our world was slowly returning to its former glory, and we were making strides in repairing the emotional damage as well. Dr. Sanchez emerged from her shell, smiling and laughing with the rest of us once more. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always a way forward. And then came the day when we received a new mission. This time, it was not a call to arms, but a call to exploration. We were to travel to a distant corner of the universe, to a place that had been untouched by any human before. It was a daunting challenge, but we were ready. We set out, our hearts filled with a sense of hope and excitement. And as we journeyed forth, we knew that whatever lay ahead, we would face it together, as a team. Chapter 7. The New Frontier. The journey into the unknown was long and arduous. We traveled through the deepest reaches of space, beyond the boundaries of what had ever been mapped or explored. As we traveled, we talked and laughed and dreamed about what we might discover when we reached our destination. Would we find new life? New technologies? New wonders beyond our wildest imaginations? Finally, after what felt like an eternity of travel, we arrived. The planet before us was unlike anything we had ever seen. Its sky was a deep purple hue, and its mountains towered high into the clouds. We knew that we were in for an adventure unlike any other. We landed our ship and set out on foot, taking in everything around us with awe and wonder. The planet was rich with plant life, and the air was fragrant with the scent of exotic flowers. As we made our way through the dense jungle, we encountered creatures that defied description. Some were small and harmless, while others were enormous and imposing, with teeth as long as our arms. We proceeded with caution, but also with a sense of excitement. Everything was new, and everything was waiting to be discovered. As we traveled deeper into the jungle, we began to discover traces of ancient civilizations, statues, ruins, and inscriptions that hinted at a rich history that had long been forgotten. But as we delved deeper, we began to realize that there was something else present on this planet. Something older, and more powerful than anything we had ever encountered before. We found ourselves under attack, ambushed by beings that seemed to be made entirely of shadow. They moved with incredible speed and agility, attacking us with a ferocity that left us reeling. We fought back with everything we had, but it was like trying to fight a storm. The beings were everywhere, and it seemed as though they could strike from any direction. Just when it seemed as though all was lost, the being that we had encountered before appeared. It was a powerful being of light, and it radiated with a fierce energy that dispelled the shadows. We knew that there would be dangers here, it said to us, but fear not. With my aid, you will overcome any obstacles. Together, we fought back against the shadow beings, and with the help of our ally, we emerged victorious. It was a hard-fought victory, but it taught us a valuable lesson that we would carry with us always, that the universe was full of both beauty and danger, and that we must be prepared for both. As we made our way back to our ship, I knew that this journey had been the most extraordinary of my life. We had explored a new frontier, and in doing so, we had discovered something new about ourselves. We had faced impossible odds, but we had emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. And as we set our sights on new horizons, I couldn't help but wonder what other adventures were waiting for us in the vast expanse of the universe.